Welcome to Ready to Heal. I'm your host, Betsy Sawyer Galen, and we're going to talk about a different various methods of healing. Some of them you've heard of, some of them I'm sure you've never heard of. And today I'm back with my guest, Laurelle Rethke. She works with crystals, and you have a title that you like to be called by, correct?
Oh, well, a lot of people just call me a crystal maven because I know a lot about crystals and I can talk about them for a long time. But I do other things. I'm an empowerment coach in many ways in regards to I like to work with people to help empower them to be their most whole self, connected to themselves spiritually and connected to the earth.
And how do you do that with crystals?
People are drawn to crystals naturally. They're drawn to the energy and the beauty of them. So people come to me and they'll start asking me things like, what's the best crystal for me? And that's the first step I usually take with guiding someone to their own intuition and their own connection to themselves. Because I'll say, well, what are you drawn to? And some people are still skittish, but I'll say, just pick 3 or 4 or 5 that call to you, and then I can guide you from there in regards to what you're looking for right now, if it's around a healing thing that they want. But in general, that's where I start talking to them about, what you're drawn to is what's most important for you right now. I can't know what you need. You might say, oh, I have an issue with sleep. Well, there's probably about 100 crystals that can work for sleep issues. But what is it specifically that is causing a sleep issue for you? Because so much of it is aligned to what we're thinking mentally, what we're feeling emotionally, where maybe we're just disconnected from our spiritual selves. A lot of that plays into what we need for healing. So when someone comes to look at crystals for healing, I like for them to see what catches their eye, what calls to them, what feels right to them in their hand. And that's what they really need right there in that moment. And that's how I start them on a journey of connecting to themselves, connecting to their own intuition, empowering them to understand that they have everything they need within them.
Oh, I love that. And these crystals that you brought today, I know we started talking about them together before we started the show. It's hard to, I'm drawn to all of them, but if I pick out the ones that I am most drawn to, I am very drawn to this. I think this is amazing. It's like magical because it's so sparkly and it has such different colors in it. And I asked you when I first saw this, is this completely natural?
It is.
What is this? And where do you get this?
It's called chalcopyrite. It's a mineral that grows on top of a host rock. So all of the colored area is the chalcopyrite growing on top of maybe shale or something. I'm not really sure what this is. But you'll see there's even tiny little sparkles of chalcopyrite on the host rock beyond the ones that have grown into bigger crystals. And it's completely natural.
Where do they find this, do you know?
I don't know where I think chalcopyrite is probably has 4 or 5 locations where they find good bits of it. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but it's something that people are really drawn to. And you used the word magical.
Yeah.
And this is another time where I can say, see, you already know a lot about what this crystal works for energetically. It's got all these different colors. So when you think about just purely on color therapy, this stone is bringing in joy and magic in some ways.
Yeah.
When we have a stone like this, or also this labradorite, which in certain light shimmers in different colors. Yeah, just showing both of them. It shimmers different colors in different light. But both of these stones, just through all the color, bring in such joy.
Yeah.
Just looking at them. This one you have to seek a little bit deeper. You have to look
I
beyond the surface.
Yeah.
You have to look beyond the surface to see the colors come into this particular stone.
Right. It's iridescent when you put it in the right light.
Right. So this is working in a way where you have to look beyond the surface of things, and that's really what labradorite helps to work with, along with other things. This is on the surface, you see it. So the difference between labradorite and this stone is labradorite is more going into Gnostic wisdom and looking it through the layers of things and seeing beyond things. This is bringing in wisdom in a different way. It's bringing in the joy, natural joy, and wisdom that comes from a lot of different aligning to a lot of different color, because each color as it comes in brings in new information. It sort of recalibrates our brain to align with these colors and the elements that are within them. So
very cool.
So if you think about light energy, light coming onto the stone and bouncing off of it, and colors coming in, it's an actual vibrational healing just to see all the colors on a stone like this, and it realigns the mind in certain ways and gives us more perspectives and brings in wisdom in that way.
Oh, wow. Wow. I want to ask you, too, is this a cousin of this?
It is not.
Because they're kind of similar, but I see the underlying stone is different.
Right. This is called cobalt and calcite. So it's a calcite that's also growing on a host rock. Whereas
I guess I'm drawn to those.
Well, they are raw. They look most like what you might find in nature. Because you can see the host rock on it. A lot of people are drawn to stones like that. I really love them too. But this is actually a cousin to this.
Oh.
This is green calcite. This is a hot pink calcite.
Wow.
And this is...
No, they don't look similar.
Red and orange calcites.
Polished, right?
This one is dipped. It's been lightly dipped in an acid to make sure that it doesn't fall apart, because calcite can crumble. It's only a 3 on the hardness scale, between 1 and 10. So they dip it quickly to ensure that it doesn't crumble when you get it.
Oh, wow.
So it does have that little bit of softer look to it. If you can see how the light hits this.
Right.
It's very different than the way the
light...
I
wouldn't have guessed those were the same.
Right. It's different than the way the light hits this particular stone, for instance. This is an 8 on the hardness scale. It's white, so it's a little bit harder to tell, but the way light refracts through a crystal is part of the healing and energy that comes in. It's the vibrational essence, a lot of the vibrational essence of it.
And now, what do you mean by that, the different way that it refracts off the crystal?
Right.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. It's only a little bit. It's you know how when we see color, it's because of the way light hits something and the way our eyes take that in?
Yes.
So it's the same thing when we're looking at colors on crystals. The way our eyes take in the light information brings in information for us that we can vibrationally attune to. So if you're looking at color... Anytime you're looking at color, that's why color therapy works, it brings in different information for us to align with. And so blues and greens are very soothing. Red is very activating. So when it's the same thing when you look at a crystal, just the pure color therapy that comes from looking at a crystal brings in a vibrational healing beyond the vibrational effects of the energy of the stone itself in regards to the minerals and the crystalline structure within it.
And what about the size? Does the size affect the potency or what you get from interacting with the crystal? Sometimes
yes, and sometimes... Size always does affect it, but you can have a really tiny piece of rhodozite that can be more powerful than a fist-sized piece of calcite in regards to how intensely you might feel the energy if you're open to feeling the energies, which is something that... And so what determines that? For example, I'm thinking this because I have a large piece of amethyst that's maybe, a foot wide and maybe 8 inches deep, and then I have smaller pieces too, and they're different colors too. Some are deeper, some are. And is any one of those stronger on the basis of size or color, or? I would say what's strongest is what's calling to you to work with at that moment. In general, a larger piece is going to have a larger electromagnetic field around it. So if you're comparing amethyst to amethyst, in general, the larger one will be bigger, but sometimes if it's a much darker color amethyst, it'll feel more vibrant to a lot of people. And by the same token, there are lilac amethysts and there are rose amethysts that are much lighter in color but have a beautiful vibration to them. So it's really, when it's amethyst to amethyst, it's usually size, but the difference in color can also matter.
Oh, okay.
But at the same time, you can use a really small stone and still get a lot of information from it. Some people are very sensitive and they can't handle the larger stones. They prefer the small stones.
What happens? How would you know if you couldn't handle it? How would a person
you'll know.
that?
You just know. Like, you feel different in the middle of New York City, in the middle of Times Square, than you do at the beach.
Right.
You know how you feel different in those two locations.
Oh, okay. So it's maybe
it's the same
overstimulating?
thing.
It
You
feels
know.
like too much. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I'm curious too. This is beautiful. Is this like a real shell?
It is a real shell.
And that's beautiful. And now you mostly have stones, but
I do.
You brought a shell.
I brought a shell because shells are an important piece of healing. Shells have a natural a geometry to them that is, in this case, in the case of a spiral or a golden mean almost. So there's a sacred geometry within it. It was also the home of an animal in the sea. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of information that comes with that. It can help us feel at home. It can give us an emotional soothing, like having a home, partially because being from the water, the sea and the water represents emotion. Mm-hmm. And how emotion flows through us. So if something's been in the sea for a long time, it can help us align to having things wash away, being emotionally secure, being a home situation. Plus, this is a mother of pearl, so there's a lot of, like I was saying, a lot of information comes in through these particular bright colors. Uh-huh. This is a very light version of that. This is something that can be used at the crown to help us align to spirit. So
you're talking about putting it actually on your head. Mm-hmm. and what, just meditating mm-hmm. or sitting
meditating,
with it?
Sitting with it, reading a book with it, but usually meditating with it, especially around if you're doing a heart meditation of some sort or an aligning to spirit meditation and you want to use sacred geometry for that. It's really good for that. Oh. But also it's got this iridescent sheen on it, which is aligned to the spirit cord or the energy cord that runs from the top of our head up into spirit world, divine creator source energy. So it's got that shimmer, like for instance an umbilical cord from a baby has sort of a shimmer to it before they cut it. You can almost see the electricity, so to speak, running through it. And this has a very similar look to an umbilical cord. It's an iridescent shimmer. So to me, this is very connected to the energy cords that run all the way through our body and down into the center of the earth.
Oh, fascinating. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ask you also about I'm drawn to this one too. I love the color of this, and I mean, it's rare to see stones like this.
Yeah, it's a beautiful dark piece of lapis lazuli, which is really great for healing for the throat and especially the third eye. A lot of people connect to it. It's got connections to ancient Egypt as well as many indigenous cultures. And it's really a great stone. It's for starting to open up our own wisdom around things like this. So a lot of people are called to that stone.
Yeah, it's beautiful and
it's also
unusual.
Great if you use these two together. This is jet and lapis together. Work great for migraines. So I've made.
And do you put them on your head, or what do you do? Just hold them in your hand?
You can put them on your head. You can put them in your pocket. You can make here. Let's turn this one around. You can make a necklace out of it. I do have some of these for sale, so they have stickers on them. But you can make a necklace out of it. But the combination of the two stones really, really helps people with migraine issues.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay, I love these. And I have one more question to ask before we go on to some other things. I'm also drawn to this. This is really unusual and cool looking. I love this. What is this?
This is a beautiful piece of Spanish pyrite. So it's from Spain. Pyrite grows naturally in these cube shapes. And like I said, part of the healing that comes is from the crystalline structure, from the minerals that are in the crystals, from the way, not only the crystalline structure within it, but the form that it takes. So this takes the form of a cube, which is very sturdy, very much of this world in many ways, very grounded and solid, whereas the triangle is more representing going up towards spirit. So this cube, very solid, pyrite is known for manifestation in the physical world. It's known to hold the energy of the sun. There's veins of pyrite and quartz all through Manhattan. So quartz is a magnifier of energies. Pyrite, it holds the energy of the sun. Hence, it's the city that never sleeps. So
now you're telling me it's all through Manhattan. Where?
There's large veins, I know, going through Central Park, but I know there's other locations too. I don't have an exact map, but I do know that there's veins of quartz and pyrite that runs through Manhattan.
Oh, fascinating.
So, yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, really good for healing here in the solar plexus.
In the solar plexus? Oh, I love those. I wanted to ask you if you could tell us a little bit about what kind of problems or issues do you find yourself healing for people with crystals?
Usually, the things that I end up working with crystals on tend to go in collective cycles. Most recently, there have been a lot of people coming to me that are having issues in the root and sacral chakra, so the chakras in the hip area.
Which means what?
Which means that I'll have people come in either for healing around, say, something going on with feminine or masculine sexual issues, or I will have people coming in just not feeling very grounded. They can't manifest things on the physical plane, or they are having trouble feeling like they have a connection to home or community or tribe, so to speak, or they're having some creative blocks, or just needing some flow going. So it's the root chakra is about grounding in our tribe and just making things happen in the physical world, making sure we have clothes and food and a place to live. The sacral chakra is about sexuality and about movement and flow and creativity and children. So anything around those areas, that was sort of what was coming in a lot at the end of last year. Before that, I had a lot of people coming to me with solar plexus issues, which is personal empowerment. Even things like around diabetes are affected by this chakra, because each of the energy centers connects directly to the endocrine system. So the diabetes, it affects one of the glands that's in this area. It's not coming to my head at the moment. But just like working on the sacral chakra, people will come to me with woundings even. I've had a lot of women come to me that have had some sort of sexual misuse with them in some way, and bringing in healing around those things, allowing them to shift not only what's going on physically in some cases in regards to polyps or other things like that, but helping them to shift emotionally and mentally and spiritually in some way, where they feel disconnected from themselves by something that happened, where they felt like they were less than a whole human being. Working with the crystals helps them to realign to the divine guidance that they have never been harmed, they have never been hurt, and this is something that they can heal and get beyond. So working with crystals is so much more than just a physical. It's a holistic approach. And when I talk to people, part of what I do when I work with people on crystals is I'll just ask them what their intentions are. But sometimes we'll even do, we'll talk afterwards and help them reconnect to maybe where they felt hurt in some way, and help them realign to knowing that they are a pure source of divine love right here on Earth.
Okay, and I wanted to talk, I know we talked a little bit about some of the properties of different crystals, and you have told us, you could just maybe pick a couple out here that you would like to talk about.
Sure.
They each have different healing properties. So tell us what you are drawn to. And
Right. Well, fluorite, you went straight to fluorite. This is a beautiful piece of purple fluorite. And you can see there's crystals all the way around this piece. Fluorite is really known to help us realign mentally. But through that, it brings us mentally to our most nourishing place. So it's an amazing healing stone in regards to it helps us come back into our most nourishing self. It helps anything that's growing out of order to realign and go back into order. So it's been used a lot with cancer patients for tumors and things like that. Any time there's growth that isn't proper growth, it helps to bring us back to proper growth.
And when you tell me it's used with cancer patients, how is it used? Doctors use it, or people come for crystal healings?
Yeah, when people are seeking out alternative therapies, they will go to a crystal therapist, and one of the things that a cancer patient would be given in many situations is fluorite from alternative healers, or alternative therapists, crystal healers would recommend fluorite because of the properties of not only realigning things, but it helps to heal whatever's going on in the mind, to bring us back to our nourishing state for ourselves, which when we're in that place, then everything realigns and goes away.
And is this something that you would hold in your hand? Would you put it on the part of your body that you feel affected?
It's something you could sleep with it next to you on the pillow or on the mattress somewhere. A lot of people sleep with crystals. You can carry it in your pocket. You can make a necklace out of it. I have a necklace here of rubies and amber. So you can make a necklace out of a piece of fluorite. You can meditate with it. But I would, if I was dealing with a serious issue like cancer, it's something that I would carry with me every day, either in my pocket or in a jewelry piece.
Okay.
As well as meditating with it.
Okay. That sounds like good advice. I wanted to ask you also, does it make a difference where I work with a crystal? Say, like if I'm outdoors or if I'm indoors, if I'm sitting under a tree, if I have water. I know these elements, do they make a difference to the treatment?
I would say wherever you feel most healed is going to bring you more healing. For instance, being outside, being under a tree. Trees also have vibrational therapies. They've now scientifically been proven to not only make us feel better because they're green and they're outdoors, but actual scientific proof that they affect us physiologically. I believe I'm using that correctly. Right. So being outside under a tree is probably going to bring more healing, but it doesn't matter where you work with a crystal. In regards to working with crystals, these are nature. These are a bit of earth. So when we work with a crystal, we are working with bringing a bit of earth to us. And that's why I actually sell crystals and work with crystals, is to bring more nature into New York City, to reconnect with nature and align with earth energies. And I feel, some people say, oh, don't you worry that these crystals are being taken from the earth, and shouldn't they be left to the earth? And I think that the earth is okay with us bringing them into our homes so that we can continue to connect with her. And also, the more aligned we are with the earth energies, the more we're going to want to take care of the earth.
Right.
So it's a symbiotic relationship that naturally occurs, and especially in these big cities that we live in, we get so disconnected walking on concrete. I think I mentioned this last time.
Right.
These are a really great way to reconnect with the earth energies.
Okay. I wanted to ask you also, do you know if insurance covers crystal treatments? And if not, what would somebody expect to pay for a crystal treatment? How much time would it take? And
Right. In general, insurance companies don't cover it. There are certain practitioners who have, I'm assuming, certain licenses that they can do more than one treatment at a time, and maybe they would use crystals in tandem, and maybe in a case like that it would be covered. But in general, it's not. It's considered an alternative therapy that hasn't been recognized yet by our more standardized medical coverage at this time. But crystal healings are varied in prices. I've seen people charge anywhere from around $40 for a crystal healing to $250. It just depends on how involved, how much time is taken.
right. And in the demo that we did, you showed a lot of different crystals being laid on the body.
Right.
You don't do that every time, right? That's just depends on the person and the situation.
It depends on the person and the situation. I, in general, will put around that many or more. But I do have treatments that are less expensive, that are shorter and less expensive, where I'll only put 1 to 3 stones on each chakra. And I think we did a little bit more than that last time.
We did. We did.
And I'll do some energy work, some pulsing or some energy work to help our body connect to those energies. But then I also have really elaborate intuitive healings where I will use upwards of 150 crystals on a person, and it'll all be me intuiting from my vast collection what crystals want to work with that person at that time. And I'll even take time afterwards where I talk to them about each of the crystals used and the theme that came in for their particular healing. Mm-hmm. So when I do a healing like that, it costs a little bit more. So that healing is around $150 for me.
Oh, okay.
Whereas the other would be $60. The simple one would be $60. But it's a 2-hour healing as opposed to a 1-hour healing. So it's, you know.
It depends on what you're getting.
And there's people that have been doing these healings for a long time, and they'll charge more like $250 for a treatment that's an hour long. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it varies.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you also about where people can find a class to learn more about doing it themselves.
Right. There are classes in most large cities. It takes a little bit of looking, but you can usually find it if you go to your local rock shop. You'll be able to find out
Can you tell me also where these I was asking you a little earlier. This is very unusual. I've never seen anything like this in a rock shop.
Uh-huh.
So where would you get something
Find
like this?
unusual things.
Yeah.
It's possible to go online. There are regional shows. There you go. There are regional shows that happen all around the country and around the world. In small towns even, where usually once a year, sometimes twice a year, they'll have a gem and mineral show or a fossil mineral rock show, something like this. So if you just Google that, you can find out where some of these regional shows will happen, and you can find some of the more rare things. However, some things you may not find unless you go to Tucson in early February. For 2 weeks, they have the largest gem and mineral show in the world there.
Oh, okay, that's
so you
good
can
to
find
know.
anything that is being currently mined, you can find there. And even things that are not currently mined, you can find there.
Oh, fascinating. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
being my guest.
You're welcome.
Is there anything you would like that we didn't touch on today to tell people?
Well, going back to the previous question about where can you find, besides going to your local rock shop, you can Google information, and there's also people who have courses online, and I soon will actually have courses online myself through my website, 5sensehealing.com. But I teach classes all around Manhattan, so if you're local, I'm teaching classes every couple of months on crystals.
Wonderful. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
This is your host, Betsy Sawyer Galen, and thanks for joining us again on Ready to Heal. See you next time.